Hello, Buettes and some booze, and welcome to Mama Tanya's Kitchen. I'm so excited that you could join me today for the launch of my new series, Hood Homesteader, Lifestyle for the Rest of Us. Today, I've got a very special episode for you. We going straight hood farm to hood table. You heard what I said? Some of you might know me as the executive director of the Black Feminist Project. And one of our most visible programs is the Black Joy Farm. The Black Joy Farm is a 5,400 square foot lot that I started back in 2013 with the help of community members in one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. And in that time, we have grown thousands of pounds of food, started a successful community food program, and created a safe, radical, green growing space free of state violence and police brutality. That's really important. And so today we are going to show you what it looks like to take the food from the ground to the table. Are you ready? Today's delectable farm to table creation is dun-da-da-dun, greens. We've got a little bit of bok choy, a little bit of spring mix, and a little bit of Lacinato kale. That sounds fancy, right? It is fancy, and it's one of my favorite kales. And when I say favorite, I mean the only kale that I actually like, because I actually hate kale. So, I'm gonna show you how to make a quick and easy, fast and dirty curry chickpea green plant-based meal. So let's get started with the quinoa. I know. I've heard it a million times. Quinoa is bland. Quinoa is nasty. Don't nobody want to eat no goddamn quinoa. But you have not had Mama Tanya's quinoa. See, here's the thing about plant-based meals, right? Here's the thing about healthy food. That does not mean that it's got to taste like roughage, that it's got to be bland. It's all about the seasonings, girl. You got to really understand your flavor palette. We have some red quinoa here. And you really want to do like a 2-to-1. For every 1 cup of quinoa, you want to do 2 cups of liquid. We're not just going to do water, baby. We're going to add some vegetable broth. So we've got this boiling. We're going to give that a little swirl. Now, if you are not vegan, feel free to also add a little bit of butter. Over in these parts, we are omnivores, and I love the flavor of butter, so we're gonna add a little butter right in there. You don't need a lot. Let's not get crazy, okay? And let's set that and bring that to a boil. And then once that boils, then we can bring the temperature down and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. So we've brought this to a boil. Now, we wanna add a little oomph. So we're gonna add a little bit of coarse sea salt. Absolutely use garlic that is already minced in oil and in water. You want to use probably about a tablespoon for about 2 cups of quinoa. We're going to add a little black pepper. Not too much, just a little bit, probably about a teaspoon. Or just shake until the ancestors say, girl, cut it out. So while we've got the quinoa going, let's get to the greens. And again, I know y'all are like, sauteed kale, Tanya, for real though? But I'm gonna put a little razzle dazzle on this, right? We got our beloved chickpeas. I know y'all vegetarian and vegan niggas love y'all chickpea. And I actually love chickpea too. We need a little bit of oil, olive oil, probably, again, only about a tablespoon, and get that pan nice and coated. And if your oil looks like that in the pan, your pan is sufficiently hot, baby. Oh, you hear that sizzling? Little sizzle, sizzle. Ew. Ew. Like it when my pan sizzle, baby. Oh, you hear that? We are going to add our curry. Again, about a tablespoon. You don't need a lot. You don't want this, you want the curry to give it a little bit of, a little oomph. You don't want it to overpower. So we're gonna put that in there. We're gonna add some fresh chopped ginger in there as well. and we are going to add some sliced onions. And then for extra flavor, we're gonna add a little bouillon. You can use broth in place, but broth is gonna make your saute a little too, it's gonna be a little too heavy on the salt. It's gonna be too saucy. We wanna saute. You understand what I'm saying? So we want it to not be as juicy. I take a little bit off, about 1/3 of the cube. We crumble it, and we're gonna cook all of that in the oil. Doesn't that sound great? This is gonna be the best tasting oil this side of the East River, B. And while this is just over here sizzling and cooking and looking beautiful and getting fragrant, we gonna talk about these greens. So step over here with me and let's talk about this bok choy, mixed greens, and Lacinato kale. So let's get into these greens. Say hello to my little friend. This is Lacinato kale. See how different this looks than regular kale, the kale that we're used to? This is a more tender, almost less mature type kale in terms of taste. So it is easier on the jaws. It's got a milder taste. So I feel like there's a little bit more sweetness than maybe just a regular bagged kale that you might find. Then we've got bok choy. My homegirl here, she a little wet, forgive her. This is not as big as you would normally see. This is almost like a baby bok choy. When you're growing things on your own, sometimes they aren't supersized, like the steroid-filled stuff you get in the grocery store. Be forgiving. Trust me, it tastes a lot better. Now, bok choy, if you don't know what it is often referred to as Chinese cabbage. If you ever had Chinese food, I can assure you, you've had bok choy. And then last, but certainly not least, we've got mixed greens. Now, one of the things that is really irritating to me growing greens, girl, can I tell you about the aphids? My trick is actually to take my greens, stick them in the fridge because the cold will kill the aphids, and then the next day, put it in a nice big colander with some gloves. I then just power wash it and the aphids will come right off because they'll be all dried out, they'll be dead. Do not let aphids discourage you from growing greens. I am telling you, greens taste better when they are freshly harvested. So we are now ready to add the chickpea. Let's throw that chickpea in there on high heat. Let me turn this up a little bit. We are going to add a little salt. Give y'all a little salt, bae. You like that, right? Let me stop playing. We're gonna get that in there. We're gonna add a little black pepper. Just a little bit to taste. My kids are not crazy about things that are peppery, so I try to be cognizant of that. We're gonna add a little bit more ginger in the form of ground ginger. Remember, you've got some ginger in here, so you don't have to go crazy. So we've got that nice and mixed up. We are actually going to turn it down to sort of like medium high, and we are going to add our top. So here is where the razzle dazzle I promised you comes in. We are gonna add a little bit of coconut milk, about 1/2 cup. You don't need to get crazy. We're gonna add some pumpkin seeds. Yes, you heard me, pumpkin seeds. If you do not have a tree nut allergy, I like to play it safe. I'm gonna tap into my inner Karen and add some raisins. Yes, y'all, raisins. We're gonna leave that there. We're gonna let that start to cook. When you can hear a little sizzle, you turn it down, let it simmer, put the top on, let the liquid cook out. So let's check on these chickpeas, y'all. It's been about 10 minutes. Let's see what this thing is doing. Do you hear that sizzle? I do. Sounds good, right? Let me see if my chickpeas are. Come on, chickpea. Come on, chickpea. We are ready. So, we are now going to add our greens. I'm gonna put those in there on a medium-high heat. You wanna watch that just to get it warm. Once it starts to wilt down, I'm gonna add a little bit more oil just to keep things moist. And here, I'm now gonna add a little bit of garlic. I didn't add it before because I didn't want the garlic to burn. I want the garlic to have a very pungent and sort of, you know, at the forefront in this flavor profile. So I'm gonna add it later. I'm not gonna add it at the beginning. I know a lot of us like to, when we do a saute, we wanna throw the garlic in there with the onion, but actually, we wanna put it at the end if you really wanna be able to taste that garlic. Well, here comes the moment of truth. Let's see what we got going on here. What we talking about. But don't take my word for it. Cause you like, girl, you cook anything and tell us anything. Let me get my camera op, AKA my daughter, to come over here and taste test it, because they don't usually like stuff like this. What you like the most about it? Flavor. What do you taste? What is it giving?
I like the raisins, actually.
You actually do like the raisins. Come on, Karen. Come on, Karen.
It has a nice sweetness to it.
Has a nice sweetness to it.
I'm a big fan of chickpeas, but when it's all together like this, it's good.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear it. See, I told you. Thanks for joining me and Taylor on our very first episode of Hood Homesteader, Lifestyle for the Rest of Us. See you soon.